morning, one and all present over here. It is my pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of our Department of International Business to this national seminar on entrepreneurial opportunities for educated youth in global business. At the outset, I welcome Professor S. Ramkumar, Director, Entrepreneurship Development Cell, Government of Puducherry, who accepted to deliver the inaugural address. Welcome, sir. And I welcome V. Govindaraj, sir, Deputy Director, MSME Development Institute, Chennai, who accepted to deliver keynote address. I welcome Mr. Mohammad Farooq, sir, the HR Manager of Ford India Limited, to deliver the special address. Now I welcome Captain of our School of Management Ship, Professor Anjanaya Swami, Dean School of Management. Welcome, sir. I also welcome my faculty colleagues from Tourism Department, Professor Venkat Rao, and other faculty members from Commerce, from Banking Technology, DMS, and I join my hands with my colleagues to welcome all the research scholars, participants, and students friends. Welcome one and all.
Esteemed Dean, School of Management, dignitaries from industry and academic institutions, respected Head Dr. Y. Srinivasulu, who is instrumental in organizing this particular seminar, beloved faculty colleagues from the Department of International Business and other Department of School of Management, my dear scholars, student friends, good morning to all. It gives me immense pleasure to inviting you all for the national seminar on entrepreneurial opportunities for educated youth in the global business. As you are all aware, India's contribution in international trade between 1.7% to 2.5% as per the Foreign Trade Policy 2015-2020. By realizing the poor contribution, the present government of India has been taking a lot of initiatives to improve the India's export performance, especially in the form of ease of doing business, labor law reforms, land reforms, FDI policy reforms, double taxation avoidance treaty, etc. In addition to floating so many schemes like Make in India scheme, Digital India scheme, Skill India scheme, Startup India schemes, which are paved the way for entrepreneurial opportunities for educated youth in global business. Today, educated youth prefer to be job seekers instead of job generators or entrepreneurs. If I want to say, especially the uneducated youth or less educated youth, they are ready to opt for entrepreneurship instead of the educated youth. But with that, the government of India supports and the intervention of multinational companies in the Indian business created a huge opportunity for educated youth in India, especially in the areas of export, import, franchising, outsourcing, documentations, international taxation, consultancy-related services, foreign exchange management, third-party logistic and supply chain management, export of MSMEs product, etc. With these points in mind, the Department of International Business organized this one-day national seminar. As part of the seminar, we have received around 52 papers across India, or different part of India, out of which 25 papers has been shortlisted for the presentation of two technical sessions. The first technical session titled Entrepreneurial Opportunities in Global Business. The second technical session titled Entrepreneurial Challenges and Concern in Global Business. This Department of International Business earlier too organized two different national seminars titled Empowering MSMEs for Global Competitiveness, and the other one titled Maximizing Manufacturing Competency of MSME through Make in India program. In this occasion, I recall the support rendered by Professor R.P. Raya, the former Dean School of Management, and Professor P. Sridharan, the former head of the Department of International Business, who helped us to conduct the successful seminar of the said seminar. This seminar is the third one in this series of the seminar organized by the Department of International Business. I hope with the Dean School of Management, the Department of International Business can endeavor large achievements with this guidance and the support. I hope this seminar will be an eye-opener, especially for the youth of the nations to excel into entrepreneurship in global business. Today is the day of International Women's Day. I salute with all the women on this occasion. Thank you very much.
So our progress, our achievements, all these things are largely due to that particular ignition, that particular spirit of the individual. So the entrepreneur is thus a hero in an economic system. He takes the center stage in the economic dynamics of any nation, in fact, the planet Earth. And that is how we have to look at it. And I am never tired of quoting Peter Drucker's observation, where he said, every mineral is another rock, every plant is another weed, till someone finds a use for that. Till some gentleman finds a use and says that this is the mineral, this is the use of this can be used for this and this, we just tend to ignore and we just take it as another rock. Understand, another rock. Therefore, very beautifully he captured the essence of entrepreneurship, and where it involves shifting of resources from low productivity areas to high productivity areas. This is the entrepreneurial function, and we all owe a great deal, right? We are indebted and we owe a great deal of debt to the several innumerable entrepreneurs who have contributed so much for our well-being. And we take for granted, understand, because all those things are there. We have light, we have the sound system, we have the telephony, all these things. Many of these things we just take for granted. But mind you, behind every product and service, there is a beautiful story. There is a very fascinating and exciting story, every product and every service. And that naturally, right, interests and excites individuals. How, right, if you go deep and examine how a particular product or service is conceived, the idea crossed the minds of some people, right, that is what entrepreneurship is. And another aspect is, that's why in the beginning itself I said, entrepreneurship is a spirit. It is a manifestation of a spirit that propels you, that drives you to look at the things in a particular way. Okay, so then, since I said it is a spirit and a philosophy, an approach, entrepreneurship need not necessarily be confined only to business. Unfortunately, in a country like India, many of the people, right, cannot come out of that trap wherein they get obsessed with small-scale and tiny enterprises. Entrepreneurship is much more than that. Right. A teacher could be entrepreneurial, a district collector could be entrepreneurial, a doctor could be entrepreneurial, a vice chancellor could be entrepreneurial, a security guard also could be entrepreneurial. The point here is whoever does things in a different way, whoever injects some novelty in the way how he or she works, there is entrepreneurship. I tell you, there was one security guard in the distance education directorate here when I headed that department. Okay, he is otherwise a security guard, and you know the work culture in any government system, Monday through Friday, and Saturday and Sunday almost all dead. And you have their customers, the students who enroll for various programs, largely from the industry, and they get only weekend off, right? They visit the campus only during the weekend for some work or the other. And here is a security guard, right, who goes all out. Otherwise, his job description is standing there, right, and ensuring the safety, security, right. He goes beyond his job description, right. He keeps himself a formats, pro formas, okay, and he keeps himself study material, a few sets. Whoever comes, right, he checks the ID card and gets his signature and hands them over the study material and various formats and all those things. Which means you have thousands and thousands of security guards, or hundreds in this campus. Here is a security guard, right, who interprets his job in a totally different way. That is the entrepreneurship, right? Entrepreneurship need not necessarily be equated to Mark Zuckerberg, right, Bill Gates, right, or Tim Cook, right, all these things, right? In our own daily life, in our own day-to-day exposure and experiences, we find everywhere, all around, right, people, right, who do or who perform, right, the task in a novel way, in a different way. That makes, right, I mean, it is entrepreneurship. That is the way how. Yesterday, my colleague, Dr. Venkatrao, met me in the morning. He was highly in an excited mood because certain things I need to tell. That is why it is not to, right, boost up some department or some HOD. Right, there is a context, and I am provoked to tell these things or to share these things with you. He just entered my room, right, flashing a couple of papers in his hand, right, told me, sir, I am very much excited, very happy. I just asked him, what is it? And he said, sir, we have received, right, a sanction order from Ministry of Tourism for 7.5 lakhs, right, for a proposed seminar of the Department of Tourism Studies. Okay. And the second thing is, right, immediately he said, sir, here is another paper, and this is the direction from the ministry to our department, right, having identified us as a nodal center to train officials of the tourism departments of state governments in South India. Again, another thing. Why I say all these things is, in academic department, right, the job is not just like teaching in the classroom, right? You have a timetable, right? You go very religiously by the timetable, right, 9 to 5, right? People have to sit beyond working hours. People have to put in some extra effort. That is how, right, you make your department or your career or your position a different one from the rest. Okay, so there are ministries, okay, and your particular department, international business, has Ministry of Commerce and other related industry ministries. Right, you just put in some effort, make a proposal and write to them and get an appointment, meet those people. There is a lot of money, my dear friends. There is a lot of money, right, with Government of India in many of these ministries, and and they don't know how to spend also. The only thing is, right, you have to catch, you have to identify the source, you have to meet them, and they are so generous and they give a lot of money. Okay, and all these things require individuals, right, to, I wouldn't say, or I wouldn't use that big word, walking that extra mile, right? Within that mile itself, you do a better thing, right? You don't need to walk that extra mile. So, departments, individuals, institutions, organizations, all these things, right, need, more particularly in the present context, right, people, right, who would go a little further, who would put in some effort, who are smart enough, and who look at it from entrepreneurial perspective. That is what entrepreneurship is. As a teacher, I go to my class, I have my timetable, right, 9 to 5. If I am not there 9 to 5, right, at my appointed hour, I go there and finish and syllabus. That is not expected at the master's level in a university system. Right, you need to be entrepreneurial. A department could be entrepreneurial. Individual faculty could be entrepreneurial. Okay, everyone could be entrepreneurial. That is only when you understand the concept of entrepreneurship. And remember, institutions, organizations, and departments cannot be built by a single individual. It requires teamwork. I underline, when I use the word teamwork, I underline that statement, and that is very, very important. The teamwork, people have to come together, join together, and contribute, right, for the department's excellence and all these things. And the need for international business department is much more than any other department because it has huge potential. And when the world is talking about globalization, we also sing the same song, LPG, liberalization, privatization, globalization, and we are sick of singing the same song. Therefore, right, what are we doing in order to live up to the expectations? We have to measure up constantly. And there is a calling for you, people in the international business. Right? It is fortunately not your making. Somebody has made it. Somebody has expanded the size of the platform, and you are a player there now by virtue of your being in international business department. And from that you can understand the potential of the particular department. So, my dear friends, students more particularly, you are fortunate enough, for having chosen Pondicherry University and for having chosen this particular international business department. You are just in time. Understand, you are just in time, right? Tomorrow belongs to you. And more particularly, with the Trump era, let us call it Trump era, in the Trump era, where, he is almost all set to erect walls, walls of course only with Mexico and a different type of wall with other economies. Almost all he is trying to insulate American economy. And as the American economy, is closes itself, in turn, that throws open many opportunities almost across the world. So also India, with our resources and human power. So in order to make use of all these things, take advantage of the situation thrown open, willingly and unwillingly by Donald Trump, you have opportunities here. You don't need to look at far off places. You have opportunities here around in our midst, in our own context, in our own society. Okay, therefore, it is very appropriate, and I appreciate the Department of International Business for having chosen a topic on entrepreneurship development, with a focus on unemployed, educated youth. It is need not necessarily be unemployed. Even employed people also need some doses of entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial spirit. Okay, don't assume that all educated people, and people on high heels, are so entrepreneurial, Okay, so education, it is not just unemployed. Even employed people also need to be taught, need to be given entrepreneurial doses, need to be made to work, need to be made to clearly understand, where they are and how they have to perform. And that is a message, and the message has to spread. And I appreciate once again the department for having hit upon an excellent idea to organize this seminar, and keep it up, and there are so many other things, and meet Nirmala Sitharaman, Minister of State for Commerce, and she has a lot of money, and incidentally she is from South India. The moment you say you are from Pondicherry, she will give you an appointment. The only thing is we have to act. We have to act. We have to sit for a couple of hours extra, at least on some days, beautifully draft something, shoot the mail, seek appointment, and go. That is the difference between doing and not doing. And I'm happy, the young man here sitting, Dr. Arul, I must tell about him. He's a bit shy as I see him, and very unassuming, and he does things very coolly, because we have different categories. We have people who make noise and who don't do anything. And we have another category who always put some spokes because they don't appreciate, they can't see if any good thing is happening in any place. Therefore, their job is only to put spokes. Okay. And another category of people who do things very coolly, like Mr. Arul. Arul belongs to that category. Yeah, give me a big hand again, okay? Okay, so that is what Dr. Arul is. He is assistant professor only. He doesn't expect and aspire anything immediately because we have all around people, right? If I do this, what is the gain for me? Right, unless some gain, unless something is flashed there, some benefit, people are not driven. But he is a different case. He is just assistant professor. He has a long way to go. Right. Whether he gets anything or not immediately, instantly, right, he is cut to do certain things and he proceeds and he performs. That is it. You deserve all the praise. That is why I am saying so much about Mr. Arul. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity and have a wonderful time in this seminar for the whole day and draw as much as possible from excellent resource persons here and have interactions and you people students, he has come from 4, there are 2 people, Mr. Kannan also is here, they're from HR. Network, these are things, you network with people and exchange information. And when they leave the place, I hope at least a few of you, right, make that impact wherein they remember you, right? Oh, Mr. Murugeshan, right? Mr. Komara, now he's like mental images. That is the networking. So when they leave, let them remember a few bright, brilliant, and enterprising students among you, right? And you could take advantage. That is how we have to conduct ourselves in any system. Thank you so much once again for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Dignitaries on the dais, off the dais, students, faculty, and the organizers. First of all, let me thank you for bestowing some confidence on me to talk on entrepreneurship, basically to the International Business School, who are the aspirants who are actually planning to come out and actually venture something into entrepreneurship. First, there are lots of things to be told, but I am not going to into much because your dean has given a good platform of what entrepreneurship is and what it should be. It was an inspiring set of words that he has actually given to you. Brood on that. That's a very important one that as you are saying. Now, I'll start with 2 things. See, as they were saying, I'm the Director of Entrepreneurship Cell for Industries and Commerce in Government of Pondicherry. It's a recent venture in which we are trying to imbibe a culture of entrepreneurship in different sectors, including school, college, university, industries, women development. You say all things are there, basically, in every sector. So it's a project mission mode for me, basically, to instill, first of all, this culture and to develop projects and programs that will actually take up further. Now, before I start opening the topic for a discussion, let me ask your welcome speaker was saying, basically, first of all, let me wish you all a happy Women's Day. The basic reason being, you and me would not have been here if not for a woman. So I think that's where we start our talk, basically, on entrepreneurship. It's a very auspicious day, I would say, actually, basically, to remember mother, for example, or anyone whom you like. That's a different thing. So starting with that, I was just recently reading a book in which you would have heard the company Ernst & Young, one of the auditor companies. Yeah. That's a recent one. There was a Manchester professor in international business in UK writing this article recently in January, saying that the Ernst & Young are not very keen on a professional university degree anymore while they are recruiting people. It's a recent one. Why? The simple thing what they say is, rather than a knowledge-based concept of procuring an employee, they would like to have their own competition skills tested from their own side. A very simple thing. Why they have gone into that? Probably because our educational system was not fitting basically for the big companies. So this is being looked as a big turning point, a tipping point, possibly for big multinational companies which are going to come through. There are two ways of looking at it. One, we have to actually modify our system of education well suited basically for the companies that are operating or are going to take you. That is one thing. Another one, how best we can actually cut across the conventional educational system, as Dean was touching on one side basically, don't sitting for 9 to 4 or something and doing extra or something like that. Beyond that, how best are you passionate about what you are doing and how much you want to do it? Because that's the world. The world is actually that. So that is one thing I want to say on one side. That means there are multinational companies who are not interested in an examination system of an university, but an educational system which they would like to actually have in their company. See, we are all working on an examination system. That's a problem with our educational system itself. If you say the whole education, concept of higher education or university is not for job. Can you believe it? It's impossible to believe. See, a person goes to an university not for a job, seeking a job, but to seek more knowledge, more passion, more wisdom, more whatever that you want to. How many of us would have gone like that? See, the day one that we enter into a university, we are only looking for searching for job. So where am I going to end up? So where is my job after my MBA, after my PhD? See, it's all actually connected to the job, the education. Fundamentally, the universities were not built for that. But can you help it? No, it's not possible. Within an Indian system, it's not possible. It's very, very difficult actually to change that concept. So what happens? For a job, you enter into a university. For a job, what you do? You go through the rigorous examination system. So your whole courses are actually linked to how many marks am I going to get in the viva, how many marks am I going into the theory. Nothing really actually with the topics sometimes you are actually studying. That is number one. That's why Ernst & Young were asking the universities to modify. That is another way of doing it. Now the universities can modify what the companies want and then try to modify it. So that's one thing that the universities or higher education sectors should be looking after basically. And some are doing it. That is number one. Number two, the second thought that I had was actually I used to go to many schools, many colleges talking about entrepreneurship and trying to build it and learn myself what is actually the spirit. So when I was saying that I am coming to the university, one of the women entrepreneurs was asking me, what is the use of talking about entrepreneurship to students? I asked why. See, it is not to be talked, it has to be experienced. No, I told, okay, fine, but what is wrong in actually sharing what you know to them and what should be? She told, okay, it's fine. Sharing is one part of entrepreneurship, but it doesn't end up in entrepreneurship. Her word was, they have to plunge into entrepreneurship. That's what probably he was saying as a spirit baby. It was a learning for me yesterday when she told me that how do they plunge into. See, I cannot make plunge and get the experience. Plunging is yourself. You have to jump into that and you have the feeling of entrepreneurship basically. She was right. Basically, she was right. What she said was, we have another scheme in the government in which we were having women entrepreneurs to be built up. We had 10 women trained by different departments, labor department, industries department, women development department, picked up the entrepreneurs, some 10. Sent them for a training to Entrepreneurship Institute and they came back. They are in 10 different types of entrepreneurial activities and doing exceedingly well, these 10 women. So what happens is, we had a criteria when the government started. One of our main concepts was what is called as inclusive entrepreneurship. That means entrepreneurship was something thought as for the rich usually. Whenever you talk about entrepreneurship basically, the people who have money, they think, okay, I can do like this, I can do like this, I can do. That was an era that was actually going on. But now for the last 1 or 2 decades, you should understand that is transforming. Your ideas are important, your passion is important, your spirit of actually, as you are saying, the spirit of actually going into and plunging into basically in entrepreneurship is more important than money. This is what I found in government schools when I was talking to them. Many of the school children were saying, we have ideas, sir. But after some time we think, why should I think about it? Because I don't have the money actually to go ahead with that. So I generally stop my thinking, which is a very bad thing. So now the message we are telling to the government schools especially, is that give the message to children to think. Money will come. Usually, idea is curbed because of lack of opportunities. Now, my point is, forget about the money and lack of opportunities. If you have a thought, please think over it, brood over it, and then money will come later. You think about money later. Why should the lack of money restrict you from thinking? That should never happen. So that is the second point. Two main things that I wanted to talk about, right? Within that, if you talk about, as you are saying, you are going to come across around 25 papers, as you are saying, and within which you are going to have a lot of experiences, basically, on how do you want to take further. I will not go much into this, but 2 or 3 points I would like to say, what I think I generally talk about. See, we all live within a context. See, generally you can have your own definition of a context where you are. But I personally feel the time or the year in which, or the time, in a sense, the time, the territory where you live, for example, is in USA or is in Korea or you are in India. That's the territory, what I mean, and the technology. So you are a product of these three: time, territory, and technology. Each one can fluctuate, and then you also can fluctuate accordingly. So that's a wave life theory, basically. It's quite difficult to say, because again, it depends on the person who is fluctuating. So you've got 4 elements in that. You are there, the time is there, the technology is there, and the territory where you belong is there. So things that work out in India need not work out in another country. Things that work out in another country need not necessarily work out in India. That is the learning probably I think you should have at an university level, number one. Where are the opportunities that you have, and where is it that you have to sink inside, and where is it that you are going to have a problem? So once you know that, possibly you can bring out the originality in you, because entrepreneurship, as he was rightly saying, is the spirit, and the spirit of one person is not the spirit of another person, unless it's a different spirit that we are talking about, right? So the real spirit of individuals basically are going to be different. And that spirit basically originates from originality. And originality is the foundation basically of entrepreneurship. Where is the problem now? I'll tell you. Originality basically starts from curiosity. That's where it starts. Why a thing happens, why a thing doesn't happen. And where does that start from? That starts from the school, not from a college or university. See, when I am studying in the first standard or second standard, I will have curiosity. There is an excellent book by Richard Gerber. I think once or twice talking to one of the faculty members also on Richard Gerber, a school headmaster who has written a simple book called as Change. How he has gone into a government school in UK, and how he has changed the school totally on entrepreneurial level without any resources. The only available resources were the faculty and the students there. He says a very interesting thing, an observation, which was applicable in here also very much. He says that when you take your children basically to school, before going to school, they ask a lot of questions once they are born. Like they're 1 year old, 2 year old, 3 year old, they'll ask a lot of questions like, who are you, where are you, where am I going, what is this, what is that, why is it so? They will be troubling you with questions. Assume you make them join to a school and see them after 4 years in the 4th standard or 5th standard. You can assume what the number of questions they are asking when they were 3 years old and when they are 10 years old. It will be very less, far less. Because they are conditioned not to ask questions. So the foundation is laid for spoiling the curiosity in the school. And then you ask, when you come to college, you are not curious. Yeah, because you are conditioned for that. Any doubts? Nothing. Why? Because we are actually born like that. Because the spirit that we had, the curiosity that the God has sent us with, is finished once you enter into the school standard number 1. Then slowly it will be killed one by one by one. That's exactly what Jiddu Krishnamurthy's philosophy is also saying, education. Education should build in diversity, not uniformity. How many of the school teachers will be interested to have 50 students thinking 50 on a topic that he or she gives? It's a difficult task. It's not easy. She wants uniformity. When I ask about New Delhi, I want all students to talk about New Delhi in 5 sentences, which I give you. When I talk about Jesus Christ, I want the same thing. The child can think in any way. But what I'm trying to say is the originality for entrepreneurship, which we are actually trying to find out at your level, at a postgraduate level, is highly affected basically in the school education system. So from there, you need to rebuild it. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. You have to rebuild it. It's not that actually, okay, in educational system, I have 10 standard or 12 standard, I did not study anything, so I will not do anything. No, that's not correct. Now that you can realize what is the possibility and opportunity, you should think. Basically, that's the thing. So originality, number one. Curiosity is the foundation for originality. And what happens is, in entrepreneurship, I'll connect this curiosity and originality into entrepreneurship. What happens is, when you have uniformity in a class, we come to the word conformity. CONFORMITY. I conform to what another person does. You do one thing, I will also do the same thing. We all will do the same thing. That is conformity. That is exactly opposite entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is looking for non-conformists. They don't want conformists. Where does it again come from? Originality, curiosity, conformity. This is the combination, basically. So what I'm trying to say is, see, when you look at the time, territory, technology concept, basically, if you look at, see, there is one way in which I was thinking about this yesterday, in which, history is being now rewritten, basically. If you look at, years back, the years used to be divided by lines between events and context. For example, you say 1947, Indian independence, right? Or 1498, Vasco da Gama came. So that's how we were actually connecting the events, is it not? We used to study history through years, events, year, eras. That's how we used to study. Yes or no? I don't know, I used to study like that. That's why I doubt whether you are not doing that. Okay, right. I used to study like that. See, the problem here is, this definition of this years itself is changing, basically. Now, we are not very much bothered about the years. Years were there, history is there, but history is rewritten with certain other indicators. For example, I'll tell you, when I was doing a research with UK in around 2002, 2003, the professor from there here, she came from there, and we were talking in Pondicherry, basically. We were discussing. She introduced this word, Ram, now it is actually an MTV generation. At that time, it was MTV. MTV, the youth was more interested to see that channel, MTV. You may not be knowing. But that's an MTV generation. You look at how these children are seeing MTV and all those. So it's a generation of MTV. Recently, there was a book by Friedman, if you know actually, who has written a beautiful book now, Thank You for Being Late. You can enjoy that. Because you can always be late now, according to him. Thank You for Being Late by Friedman. Right? He has written the book, The World is Flat. Yeah. The same person. Yeah. A beautiful book, actually, a journalist.
Thomas Friedman.
Thomas Friedman. So his recent book, he says the same thing, basically. He says the year which has changed the globe now is 2007. 2007 is the time in which he says, recently the world has changed on an axis because of iPhones and because of the computer in your hand, that is your smartphone. And even in your watch. So it changes the whole thing, basically, the whole concept. And you are talking to such people who are controlling the whole information system, basically, in the whole world, in a watch they have. Which is very difficult for other people to conceive, basically. Now, what he is arguing is, if you do not adapt to that, you are out. That's what he is saying. It's for the faculty, especially I'm saying. I'm also a faculty. So find it very difficult unless you match what the students want it and what the technology they are applying it. Probably, if we are late, it's going to be a problem. They will be into it. So there's a 2007 classification. Now comes the next classification, post-Google and post-WhatsApp era. So the students are more using all those things, Google and WhatsApp. So where is your educational materials? And somebody was saying, where is it basically? Your curriculum is focusing on the Google and, for example, WhatsApp. So instead of dividing by 1976, 77, 78, now you can easily say there is a post-iPhone era, there is a post-Google and WhatsApp era which we are going through now, just now, and what's best actually you can contribute through that. What's the best way? That's how the connectivity is actually going that. And now it's a very important thing basically that we go across all this on a entrepreneurial mode, because unless we think in that, you cannot actually streamline education that will support such a system. Like as you was rightly saying, there are a few more things which I would just talk about this one. One is the inquisitiveness that you was talking about, the curiosity, the originals, for example. If you want to basically, one thing that is going with entrepreneurship is question the default. Like for example, a simple thing, you get a computer, right? You open up, there is a default system there in which the screen opens. Am I right? You have a new system, it has got a default. And there was an experiment that under the entrepreneurship they were taking on, in which actually how many are actually changing the default into their own screens. They say that is the entrepreneurship, basically. So a person going on keeping the default is probably not a entrepreneur in that sense, basically. Instead of taking status quo, that is what is happening now, for granted, ask why it exists in the first place. Why do you have it, basically? So that's one thing probably you should take up. Now another thing, what they suggest basically is triple the number of ideas that you generate. A simple thing, like in your business school management, for example, if you are coming out with one ideas, they ask you triple it, make it 3 ideas instead of 1. Bring it out. Maximum of ideas. Now immerse yourself in a new domain. It's a very interesting one. One more thing, let me say you. You immerse yourself in a new domain. That means you have got a course of Master of Business Administration. What science says is, if you have other capacities that you have, everyone has, and you involve in that, that stretching of capacities is going to contribute you to business also. Like for example, a professional study was done on the Nobel Prize winners. And you will find majority of the Nobel Prize winners in science, in whatever subjects that you are talking about, have taken up painting, piano, poetry, acting, reading. These were their actual passions. So you will understand, and they have convinced these side passions what they have contributed to their original thoughts, basically. So how do you bring in basically the learning about different cultures and all those things, basically including reading. Reading is a very, very important thing. You need not travel, you can read. And reading takes you through a travel system. And that, how does it actually bring back into your original subject? Another interesting thing, you have heard the famous saying, adage, practice makes perfect. Correct? You have heard? How many of you heard? Practice makes perfect. Yeah, you believe in that? Yes or no? Yeah, but entrepreneurship says no. That's the issue. Entrepreneurship says practice makes perfect, but it doesn't make anything new. I'll give a simple example. Leave this one. You have great singers. Maybe S.P. Balasubramaniam. I don't know the recent people, but my favorites, S.P. Balasubramaniam, Janagi, right? Good singers, excellent singers. And you have got composers like Ilayaraja or A.R. Rahman, right? The singers practice and practice and practice to make it perfect. The composers are the entrepreneurs. They create. That is creativity, originality, curiosity. So that's a simple difference on what we talk about as practice makes perfect. If you want to sing, you have to practice. There is no other way. But the entrepreneurs there are, the real entrepreneurs are the composers. Without them, you don't have the artist performing, basically. So you have the two people coming up in that sense. So see, you are gifted to learn to play Mozart or Beethoven, but never complete original scores. You cannot prepare your original scores. You can sing for somebody. That's the thing. And that's again entrepreneurship actually on originality. Now, what do conformists become? CONFORMISTS, conformist, as I told. One person in the class tells something, so all people say, yes sir, that's the same thing. That's conformist. So as a scientist, actually, he was rightly saying the conformists become world's excellent sheep. A word about sheep. S-H-E-E-P, sheep. What does the sheep do? If one sheep walks, all the sheep will follow. That's what we have in our school system and college system. That will not actually produce entrepreneurs. You should not walk in the same way. You should think, why should I walk? Why you should think, why should I walk? Because you are not the same person as the other person. I'm coming to that. Because every person basically has got the poor and rich in them. The poor and rich. Every dimension you'll have. Because today, again, somebody was asking, one of the principals in the colleges today was saying, sir, you are the leader, you should help us with the skill development. I told, no, you are also a leader. No, you are actually the person. No, I told, no. Every person has a leader and follower in him or her. It's you who decide, I want to become a follower. It's you who become, I want to become a leader. It's simple. You need to find out what is it that you want to become. If you want to become a follower of among the thousands, become the follower of thousands. But there is no creativity, there is no originality, there is no challenge, there is no passion in your life. You just obey the other persons. Whether it is science or arts, whether it's politics, whether it is cinema, any field for that. Leadership is everything, as he was rightly saying. Maybe it's a security. He will do it on his own way, and you will find that absolutely he is a different person, basically. Passionate about what he is doing. So, think over whether you want to become sheep, that's the only thing. Or you want to actually contribute yourself and go ahead with that. And as conformity, as I was telling, conformity, the other way in which people look at, basically is thinking it as prisoners of prototypes. So you are prototypes. You are always the prisoners of prototypes. I don't want to change. See, change doesn't mean actually a total drastic movement. It's actually, I would say, it's just like your electromagnetic waves. It's actually moving. Even if you don't want, change is taking you through that. Even if you don't want, okay, I will sit here, I will not move anywhere, okay. But as the system moves, you also have to move. But if you can actually take up yourself, your own capacities, as I was saying, you find your strength. Okay, I am very good at maybe smiling, maybe at walking, maybe at running, maybe at shouting at somebody. I don't know. It all has some effect somewhere. Find out where is the strength that you can apply. And eliminate the ones, if you feel it is so bad for others, take it off. Keep the ones, all the strengths to you, find out. But what happens is, that's why I told, you need not be going to conformity because every individual's strength and weaknesses are different, not the same. And everybody has got it. Nobody in this world is born without strength. But what happens is, you don't realize the strength, which should have been found out in school, again, back. I don't want to blame it, because that's a system through which we all go. But instead of blaming, you can always find out now, where are your strengths, where are your capacities, and that helps you not to become a conformist. Okay, I am not like her, because I have got these things with me. I am not like him, because this is my positive point. This is my negative point. Let me take off the negative, go ahead with that. That means you have got the things on this. You need not be the prisoners of prototypes. And another important thing, because you have got the fourth person here, is an interesting one from Henry Ford, who himself told, vision without execution is just hallucination. This is the third point, very major point. You have a vision, right? You are not implementing it. It's just equivalent to hallucination. That's all. You are not implementing anything. And you have got the fourth story, which probably he is going to explain. It's a very typical example on how an ordinary person has built in an empire basically on this whole system of automobile for the whole world. You remember, at one time when people are not venturing into it. Now so many are coming into it. So that was a time in which. So where does that, why do I want to say that? See, many of us think, I have a vision. Majority of you have vision. That's the interesting part. But this vision, you don't want to change it, translate it into action, basically. Because it requires a little courage, which we are not good at. Because we don't want to be courageous, basically. And that's where everywhere that's the implication. See, if you look at a secretary or a president or a vice chancellor or a professor doing differently, naturally require courage. Because you are going to be criticized. There is no doubt. But then, if your intention is good, and you really want actually it is going to benefit others, you should go ahead. So the three capacities that you require is not vision. Vision is available in plenty, basically. You go to anyone, they can actually advise you, do like this, do like this, do like this. Yes, that's good, that's required. But the second part of whether you have the courage to take this and implement, that is more important. And now comes the third most important one. When you do such a thing, you will be criticized. Are you capable of withstanding that? If you withstand, that's it, life is over, you are going to be the best. And that's how you look at the politicians and bureaucrats who are so good at, there are so many good people, politicians and they are criticized like anything. Some come out of it, some succumb to it. But that is where leadership plays the key role. Whether, as I told, whether it's a vice chancellor, whether it's a professor, whether it's a faculty, whether it's an IAS officer, whether it's a politician, irrespective of that, they all have vision. But the second two parts, are you succumbing to that? Simply saying vision and talking and going away, rightly as your dean was saying, that is one thing. Another thing, you can actually talk the vision and walk with the vision, have the courage to see actually what you want to implement. Yes, they'll be saying, why is he doing like that? Why is she doing like that? A lot of criticism. Prepare it early. Yeah, I'm going to face that. Why should you not?
Role of our MSME Development Institute. MSME Development Institute all over India have a major role to play in promoting entrepreneurship. Our activities can be simply labeled in two categories. They are: one, technical consultancy services; two, they are technical consultancy services and training. Two more words will make clear to identify our target group. They are existing entrepreneurs and prospective entrepreneurs. Keeping in view of this global competition, Government of India has introduced a scheme called NMCP, National Manufacturing Competitiveness Program, of which there are several components with which all this MSME sector can compete with the global market. Lot of assistance are given in the form of subsidies, and doing business in India is made very easy. For example, Government of India has introduced the Udyogadar memorandum, under which previously if you want to start a unit, you need to visit that particular district industry center, where you have to get all the mandate permissions and statutory rules and all you have to follow. Nowadays, the government is totally issuing all the clearances based on your self-declaration. In Udyogadar, you have to answer only 14 questions and you have to pay, you need not pay any fees for that. Only 14 questions. If you answer the 14 questions, your permission to start the industry will be given. It will be no need to visit any office. It's automatically generated. You can keep it as a copy. That is the valid document for your that you are falling under this MSME category. That's there are two type of industries. One is manufacturing and service sector. Nowadays, the service sector is picking up. So I hope that lot of opportunities there. I hope that such forums will strengthen the efforts of government in motivating the youth to embrace entrepreneurship, ultimately making our country a superpower. I assure the big support from MSME Development Institute, and I can share some of the examples, my own examples. I used to attend my aluminium meeting. Basically, I'm a diploma holder. I used to attend my aluminium meeting. Incidentally, I was discussing with one of my friend. He was a below average student in those days, 90s. when I completed my diploma. He is running one unit, sheet metal components unit, and he was generating a turnover of around 1 crore per month. But I was heading, at the same time, I was heading a laboratory in Hyderabad where we have generated only 1 crore per year. But that gentleman, the average, below average student, he was generating 1.5 crores per month. But with government support and 5 offices, several workforces, I used to generate only 1 crore per annum. Then I asked him, is it per month revenue you are talking or per year revenue you are talking? He said, it's only per month only I am telling. Then I felt very ashamed. Wherever I go now, he is the right person to teach entrepreneurship. Now, wherever I go to give this motivational campaign, I take his help. He is the right person to teach you the entrepreneurship. I thank for the opportunities given. Thank you. Jai Hind.